Jon is out there. It's a possibility. I think that's interesting just because of the speed. We saw that strength, may not, be the answer. Speed and precision, which is something, Amir has, in spades, maybe that's the answer.
Do you have a concern when we got 4 more fights with this guy that attrition, people will view attrition as the only thing that can beat him Father Time, and that they're concerned that you can't find competitive fights for him?
I don't think so, because the way I look at it, Alabama football has been pretty dominant the last 3 or 4 years, and they've had some close games, they've had some blowouts, but no one stops watching them because they've been so dominant. This is a rare opportunity to find, to see to watch a once-in-a-generation talent, and that's what people have, is a limited opportunity for the next few fights to see, the best fighter, certainly of his generation, and maybe one of the best ever.
That Canelo was so comprehensively beaten tonight, does that hurt Showtime's plan possibly? I mean, does that rule out a rematch completely for you guys?
I don't think so at all. I mean, it certainly
an attractive fight, the fourth fight.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I don't think that an immediate rematch, certainly makes sense. But down the line, tomorrow. But I wouldn't say that a rematch is out of question ever. I mean, I think what we saw was a victory of experience over youth, and with a little bit more experience, maybe a different outcome for Canelo.
Floyd completely sidestepped my could you see yourself fighting an Al Haymon fighter in the future? Given that you're, on the hook for this long contract, is that Al Haymon controls most of the big names around his weight class right now? Is that something that you have to...
I don't think that the Al Haymon thing is an obstacle at all. I mean, that... it's something we've been, I've been hearing for the last year, and then, it still persists even though Al Haymon fighters have been fighting Al Haymon fighters.
This is only the third time. This undercard fight was the most meaningful fight an Al Haymon fighter's fought an Al Haymon fighter.
Right.
Floyd's never commented on it directly.
I mean, the reality is, people were saying Al Haymon fighters never fight each other, and the top tier fighters would never ever fight each other. And tonight we had 2 top tier fighters in Garcia and Matisse, at the peaks of their careers, taking each other on. So I don't see how anyone can really say that the Al Haymon thing is an obstacle.
Those guys were Floyd Mayweather.
Although he's had Matisse for about 30 seconds.
Yeah, but that doesn't make him any less protective. So I don't think there's any hesitation at all.
Your relationship with Al is good enough that you feel like that's not an obstacle for Showtime to
no, and I don't think Al wants to protect his fighters from Floyd. If he has a fighter and the best fight is for that fighter is Floyd, and it's also the best fight for Floyd, it's going to happen. What's that?
Actual number this time?
We got an actual number last time.
I never did.
This one, I doubt it, quite honestly, because I made statements and you didn't believe them anyway. So why would I go down that road anyway?
No, the reason I didn't believe it because it wasn't an actual number.
No, that's not why. You didn't believe me because you said you had sources.
I don't want to insult you or get in an argument. I'm asking you when you put out the number this time, it will be an actual number.
And I'm saying
a giant broad spectrum of numbers.
No one ever puts out precise numbers.
Yes, they do.
And okay. We've had this conversation.
They extrapolate. I understand how
they give ranges, and their ranges are.
They'll say it did 1.2 million,
and when they say it did 1.2, I've shown you where it's done 950, and you let that slide. So why would I say it if you don't believe it?
Years of reporting papers and numbers, and they put out actual numbers, and they usually put it to a way that they extrapolate it, where they take the low end, and typically it will rise slightly. In fact, with the all-time record,
we should have this conversation where we can actually have facts, because I can show you that HBO has not put out an actual Floyd number in 5 or 6 years.
Well, first of all, I didn't say anything about a Floyd number. I talked about pay-per-view.
Right, but most of the pay-per-views in recent history have been
They put out the Floyd Cotto number.
They put out one number out of the last 5 years. So
The point is, when the all-time record was set between Oscar and Floyd, when the number was released, it was like 2.2 million. And then they actually, for the first time ever, they went back and like 2 months later, they actually amended it because it had gone up so dramatically. So,
will we put one out? I don't know. The reality is that's a Golden Boy decision as well as ours. I mean,
when you say you put out a number then for the last fight, what was the number you put out?
the statement that we made originally.
In excess of 1 million?
Yes.
That could be 10 million.
Okay. Then that's what it was. You want to have this conversation again, Dan? Like you're the only one. We just came off the best event in recent history. You're worried about the pay-per-view.
Putting out the next number.
I have none.
That's the answer. Fair enough.
I have none.
Do you think now there's no gap between HBO and Showtime? Do you think you've overtaken them? Or?
It's not something that I really look at in terms of a gap. We want to do the best programming that we can do.
But I mean, with the Broner Malignaggi, with this, with
I love our programming. And I think we're continuing to be on upward trajectory. But the reality is sort of our job is to do the best programming, and then you guys can do all the rankings and analysis.
and the interpretation.
Yeah.
Well, I think the biggest winner tonight was Showtime.
It was a really it was a memorable event. Like I said, I believe tonight showed the best of the sport.
Was the outlets and platforms that were used for this fight, is that something that we can expect for future Floyd fights, or is that because the event called for it specifically because of the opponent?
No, I think it's certainly this. The strategy with this fight was to go after the mainstream fan, the diehard fan, as well as the mainstream sports fan who wouldn't necessarily like boxing or doesn't necessarily follow boxing. So that won't necessarily be the strategy for all fights. Some will be more crossover fights than others, but certainly CBS is going to be involved, in all of our programming.